Hello and welcome back. This is MC1 Gamer. So today we saw an update not only on the Warhammer Age of Sigmar app, but also on the website with some stuff that we saw leaked a little bit earlier this week, which was some additions to the Death faction. And the additions are apparently a whole ghoul and ghoulish expansion to the Death faction, which was a little bit thin with the most previous uh, um, series of Warscrolls in a very thin book. It really didn't break any terribly new ground. It made some adjustments on a couple of Warscrolls, but there were a few things that I noticed that were missing. Notably, there was missing some of the early versions of the Battalion Warscrolls for that affected the ghouls. One of them would also affected the skeletons. That has returned to since this update to the app, which is good because those were decent battalions. They weren't great. I may not use them, and I'm going to go look at them also shortly. But what really is very interesting, and what you're going to find if you take a look at the app, if you don't know already, is that there's some variants on existing kits that give you new Warscrolls, new ways to play the Death faction. And I think that's a great thing. It isn't a release with new models. It isn't a release with new figures, new characters necessarily, but it is a way, it is more versatility. It is more variant on the kits that are existing now. They're doing some repacks, of course, with some round and ovals for some of these kits that we haven't seen, namely ghouls and the Vargeist. I don't know what they're going to do with the Vargulf. Maybe it's still who knows if it's a plastic kit or if it's still a metal kit. There's a new way to play the Vargeists with a different type of War Scroll, just build it slightly differently, as well as some what look like somewhat character-ish individual crypt horror types, and I'm going to take a look at that as well. But one of the most notable things is that you now can have a ghoul king on a not just on a Terrorgeist, but on a zombie dragon, which I think is amazing. So let's take a look at that. First of all, if you haven't seen these before, I'm going to go pull this up. These are the Warscrolls that appeared in the Vampire Counts PDF when everything. This is still downloadable free, but it didn't show up in the app. And that's unfortunate. There's some freebies. There's some that obviously battalions that are unlockable, that are related to the books, the scenario books, Battletomes, and the like. But this was kind of very obviously left out. And again, these are not some of the best that I've seen, but they do come into play, and they do have an impact if you want to play this type of these types of armies. So I'll go over this real quickly before I jump into some of the new changes. But it's nice to see this come back if this is the kind of thing that you want to build your army around. The first one is a Death Rattle Horde. And we've seen similar to this with the new Get Started boxes that, for instance, the Skeletal Horde that came with Ark in the Black. And that you can, the Arkin's Skeleton Horde, I'm going to pull that up. You can get very similar capabilities with just Ark in the Black, a unit of Black Knights, and a unit of Skeletons. And you get the additional ability to move 4 inches in the hero phase with any the elements in that unit that's much smaller. This, for the Death Rattle Horde, gives you a couple of things in addition to that. First, you get that March of the Dead ability. Again, it's a bonus 4-inch move, which is pretty good. I mean, they're much more mobile. But you also get this breaking ranks. So any of the elements in this Death Rattle Horde that are within 6 inches of each other, you can reroll saves of 1. All right. So basically, you just keep a couple of these units nearby. I'm going to read this, and you get this nice bonus, and it's a pretty decent one, I would imagine. So unbreakable ranks, Death Rattle Hordes close ranks with a singular will, making it difficult for enemies to break through to attack their vulnerable flanks. You can reroll saves of 1 for a unit in Death Rattle Horde whilst it is within 6 inches of any other unit from its battalion. So again, you just put a couple of these reasonably close to each other, and you get this extra benefit. And then the March of the Dead is the extra movement. The thing about it is that it's a White King, a unit of Black Knights, a unit of Graveguard, and 3 units of Skeleton Warriors, which is a minimum size 10, so you need 30. It's a fairly sizable force. If we just wanted to add it up, we're talking about, at minimum, let's say you have 10 Graveguard, and it's going to be 30 skeletons. So right there, we're talking about 40 wounds. A unit of Black Knights is going to be another 10 wounds, minimum 5 size. So that's 50. And a White King is 5, I think, wounds. So it's about 55. It's roughly around the size of one of those Get Started boxes. But let's also be honest. The Skeleton Warriors, they don't really work as well when they're at the minimum unit size. They really kind of work better in 20, 30, or more because they get those quantity boosts. At smaller value, wound for wound, we don't know what the points are going to be for the matched games, but just in terms of calculating wounds, which is it's never been the most effective way of balancing things, but I'm not a balance person. I don't really care about balance. I care about more the scenario and the open gaming style as well. But if you were to equal wound versus wound at a small unit size, Graveguard are much better than Skeleton Warriors, and Skeleton Warriors are far, far better when they're in the larger quantities. So it's interesting, but you can use this as a nice, as a battalion in your games, but it's nothing that's going to be outrageous. For the Charnel Pit Carrion, again, you've probably seen these guys. This is not terribly new, but we'll get to the new stuff in a second. This one is, again, one of those very sizable units, but you get some pretty good stuff here. Unit of Crypt Horrors, 3 units of ghouls. Again, they're going to be, 10 minimum, so it's another 30. And they really do work better in 20 or 30 for that massive numbers of attacks. And then you either have a Strigoi Ghoul King on a Terrorgeist, or just a regular Strigoi Ghoul King who is unmounted. And what you get a couple of different abilities. And again, this could be a component of an army. Most Age of Sigmar games I've seen have been anywhere from 80 to 150 wounds, whether you use points or comps or if you just throw models down on the table. Typically, that's a good range where most games get played. So this would be a component of your army, but it could be the entirety of your army for a good game as well. It certainly is a sizable force. So you play in the 50 to 60 wound, rough equivalent. Again, with whatever method you're playing, whether it's open or you use comp or the upcoming matched point system. Either way, it would be a good sizable force for a decent game. And in this case, you get a couple of abilities, which I think this is the better battalion between the two. Which you can just assign one piece of terrain as your charnel pit. It doesn't have to specifically be dedicated to it. It's a special effect you get. You can assign to any piece of terrain. And you really can kind of get like a third to almost a half of the board with this benefit. And it allows you to get an extra attack with each of the melee weapons for any of the units within this Charnel Pit Carrion battalion, if they're within 15 inches of it. That's a 30-inch range. And if it's something smack in the middle of the board, it's going to have a huge impact. And that's pretty big, especially when you consider a Ghoul King on a Terrorgeist or even the Crypt Horrors. It's pretty good. I think that's pretty effective. And even just getting one attack, but the potential to get more is pretty crazy. And then you have this other one, which any of these that completely wipe out an enemy unit. It says an enemy unit. That could be anything, basically. It doesn't have to be a unit of 10 guys. Any of these units, it could be a character, it could be a monster. And these are units. In the combat phase, and you basically get a +1 to your saves for whoever did that for the rest of the battle. That's amazing. I think this is a pretty good one, but the composition in order to get that is not the greatest. So anyway, these are the ones that they now have recently added, and I guess the reason why is because now we see the Flesh Eater Courts. And you can see this has all been repacked. You got the looks like this could be an 80 to 100 mil round for the Terrorgeist. I guess you could use a large oval too. That's one of what I've been using, those 120 120 mil large ovals. I would guess this is probably a 60 millimeter for the Vargolf, and I would imagine it's 40 mil for the Vargeists, the Crypt Flayers, the Crypt Horrors, the bigger guys. But you also see that this comes with, I think it's like 10 of the existing ghouls on rounds. So not so bad. Let's go take a look at this. Let's go have a gander at this. There's plenty of stuff that's included in here. So I think that we've got a nice little faction here. First of all, not a bad price, $180 for all of this. Yeah, I haven't done the math on it, but I think you get a decent price break. And for some of the bigger ones, I think this is a pretty good one. I purchased the Sylvaneth box set. A very healthy amount of stuff that's in the box set, but I think this is even better value. It looks like you get 6 of the Crypt Horrors. It's probably 2 boxes and 1 box of the Vargeist set. And now you can make different stuff with it. So that's really how it works. You get a Vargulf, a Terrorgeist / Zombie Dragon kit, and 10 ghouls. If you're not already invested in the Death Faction and you're looking to get in and you like the ghoul theme, the Flesh Eater themes, this is a great set to start with. I have to tell you, I think it's a phenomenal set. I would dare say it's a tremendous set if you feel like drinking. So some changes. This is the biggest one here. You have an Aberrant Ghoul King on a Zombie Dragon. Now, I don't have the battalions because I don't have this book, but let's take a look, because if we go and jump in here, again, we can see they're on big rounds. I don't know if it actually says what kind of size it is. And it looks like it's, let's see, it's a 130 millimeter round base. That's a big base. So that's pretty interesting. That covers a pretty good amount of ground. I think that's pretty amazing. I have like 100 mil that I was considering using, and wow, this is even bigger. I don't think it matters. I hope it does not going to matter when it comes to match play and tournament style play, but that is a big base. That actually is just a little bit smaller than the Nagash Arcane base. Certainly bigger than some of the ones I've been using and that I've been applying to some of my monsters. The biggest ones I've been using have been the 120 ovals. I do have the 170s. I haven't seen anything that's been packaged with that. I've been using it. I've been thinking of using it for just Forge World stuff. Some of the really bigger monsters or representations I've been using for the monsters, but haven't really made any of those changes. But let's take a look at the PDF. So this is the updated one. This is the Aberrant Ghoul King on a Zombie Dragon. And we'll take a look at the Terrorgeist as well. But here we have some changes. Obviously, the profile is the same, but it's it's the Ghoul King. This is the Ghoul King's gory talons. You get 5 attacks instead of the Vampire Lord. So everything else is really the same except in terms of the profile, the stats. Instead of the Terrorgeist 5-up save, you start off with a 4-up save, which is pretty respectable. So let's take a look. We'll go down and we'll see. First, we know he can fly. We know he has the Pestilence Breath, which is no different from the Zombie Dragon. This model heals die 3 wounds in each of your hero phases, which I think is great. It's an automatic. You don't have to use a chalice. You don't have to destroy or kill any models in order to gain it. It just heals, which is great. I think that's actually better than the Terrorgeist one. I have to look and take a look again if it has an automatic. He's a wizard. He gets a Feeding Frenzy spell, which is here it is, Feeding Frenzy. As the Aberrant Ghoul King imposes his dark will upon his minions, they see a ripe banquet before them and descend upon it with an insatiable hunger. Feeding Frenzy has a casting value of 6, which is really low, guys. If successfully cast until your next hero phase, you can reroll all failed wounds for Flesh Eater Court models that from your army within 10 inches of the caster in the combat phase. That's really good. All right. Yes, there are other ways that you can get rerolls of 1s, rerolls to hit, pluses to hit. Here is a method with this guy on the battlefield that if he's near Crypt Horrors or any of these other new variants, a unit of ghouls, they can reroll the wounding rolls. That's incredible. And it's within 10 inches. It's not a huge swath of territory, but it is 10 inches in every direction. So that's a 20-inch total. And I think that's great. You're going to marry this guy up to some other units, certainly some fast-moving units. So the new Crypt Flayers, who are flyers, will probably keep up with this guy pretty good. And even a unit of Crypt Horrors, even though they cannot fly, maybe the Vargo will keep up with them. So this guy can fly. He starts off with a 14-inch move, which makes sense. Vargo, I think, is only 10-inch, so it'll have a little trouble catching up, but it shouldn't be too much of an issue. So the command ability is really what I think is impressive. And we're going to see how some of this plays with the other Warscrolls with keywords specifically. Anything from Flesh Eater Courts is going to be anything that's Ghoul, Crypt Horror, Crypt, any of the new Crypt anything, basically Crypt Ghouls, Crypt Horrors, but any of the new ones as well, the new variants. But this is nice command ability. If this guy's your general, he can just, it's not a spell. It doesn't get cast as a spell. It's not going to get unbound. It is completely different from any of the other summoning type abilities. It does have some of the same mechanics, but it is not, it's just you can pull a new Courtier or Cordier, I'm not sure if I know exactly how to pronounce it, model within 3 inches of any edge of the battlefield. Let's see, let's read it from the start. Summon Courtier, that's how I'm going to pronounce it. If an abhorrent Ghoul King uses this ability, then you can set up a new Courtier model within 3 inches of any edge of the battlefield and more than 9 inches from enemy models. It cannot move. So it has a similar mechanic to summoning, but it's not a summoning spell. And when it says a new model, it's probably going to be, the way I interpret it, one of the singular models. So the new Warscrolls that have come out, or it could be a Vargo. So we have to see what has that keyword. Obviously, you're not going to pull up another Terrorgeist or Zombie Dragon with a Ghoul King on top of it, because that doesn't have that keyword. But it does have the Flesh Eater Courts, and this is something that's going to come into play as well. Flesh Eater Courts and Wizard is on this. So essentially, when we get to the keywords, there's a special ability that has an impact on whether or not you have both of these keywords. So just remember that the Ghoul King with the Zombie Dragon is a part of the Flesh Eater Courts, and he is a wizard. So let's go and move to the next one. All right, we're going to just take a look at it has the Zombie Dragon with the vampire lore on it, but he, just so you know, is not part of this sub-faction. He doesn't have Ghoul, the court, the Flesh Eater Court listed here. So they just put that there just because it's one of the variants of what you can build in the kit. It really doesn't apply. Now we have the abhorrent Ghoul King on a Terrorgeist. Let's see if there's any changes there. I did go through these, but obviously I didn't remember everything. There is some changes if I remember correctly. Yes. So now this is considered a Flesh Eater Courts and a wizard. So we know that there's at least 2 wizards, and this is also going to include the Ghoul King that's unmounted by himself on the ground. You have an option to make that as well. So in this case, you still have the death shriek. What's amazing here is, look at that. It's got a 4+. It used to be a 5+. So they improved the armor, which I appreciate, because a lot of these big models that have come out, like the new Orc Wyvern with the Lord on top of it, the Orc on top of it. He has a 3-up. The Star Dragons have 3-ups. These guys have been at 4 or 5 up on their saves. So now it's a little bit better. Really haven't had much changes here in terms of the profile, but let's take a look at some of these other abilities. We still have the Gaping Maw attack, which hasn't changed. The Death Streak hasn't changed. Infested hasn't changed. Okay, this one has Royal Blood. The model heals die 3 wounds. I don't remember if this was the case previously. I think it was. But now, obviously, he's a wizard. We know that. He's got this Unholy Vitality. This is the same as it was before. But it now has this command ability, Summon Royal Guard. If an abhorrent Ghoul King uses this ability, then you can set up a new unit of 3 Crypt Horrors or Crypt Flayers within 3 inches of any edge of the battlefield and more than 9 inches from enemy models. They cannot move in the subsequent movement phase. Again, this is not a spell. These guys are wizards, so they will get the summoning abilities, but part of their command ability is an unbindable, unstoppable, let's add new stuff onto the battlefield. The previous one was a Courtier, which we're going to get to. In this case, if this guy's your general, he has a command ability where he can set up now a unit of 3. And again, this is on the table edge and it has to be away from enemy models, but it's new stuff that you bring into the battlefield in addition to whatever summoning it can do. So that's pretty incredible. I think that some of that stuff is probably going to get comped with anybody who uses any kind of pool system. I really am looking forward to seeing how this is affected by the matched game for supposed balance with points. I don't know how that would be limited. I am, of course, again, an advocate for open play and using the game as it is without those limitations. But I have to think that these types of abilities, they're the core of what's on these Warscrolls. When you put the points down It's probably going to be more points because they have the ability to bring in additional models onto the table, and that's probably how they're going to find a way to balance that out, if you consider that balancing for matched play. Obviously, for open play or even narrative play, it's not going to matter as much. But that's a pretty big difference. Before, the Ghoul King on a Terrorgeist did not have this ability. So I'd say this is a big upgrade on this War Scroll. Next, let's go, and I don't think there's been any changes necessarily to the Terrorgeist itself. It may have added another keyword. Right now, just the Flesh Eater Quartz. I think it had that before, so no big changes there. And let's move down. Vargeist haven't changed. Crypt Horrors. Again, I think it's just there, the Vargeist, because they're more part of the vampiric elements. They're probably there just because they're the variant on the scroll. These pretty much the same. Chosen of the Ghoul King. If you're next to an abhorrent, I think this also was there previously. They heal in their, one wound in each of their hero phases. I think this is mostly just boilerplate stuff that we saw before. So the Crypt Horrors haven't changed. But let's remember what these guys look like. There's new versions that have this version of the model, but with the wings. And that's what we're going to see. And that's what I'm sure everybody wants to take a look at. Here is the Crypt Infernal Courtier. That's how I'm pronouncing it. Again, this is not the same as the Crypt Horrors. It's a unit of 3 guys. Again, built like a Crypt Horror, but with the Vargeist wings, as we know them. And let's take a look at the War Scroll. So these guys have 6 wounds each, so that's pretty butch. Again, they're like flying Crypt Horrors. Each time you make a hit roll of 6 for a Crypt Infernal Courtier skewering talons, that attack has impaled its target, inflicting 2 mortal wounds instead of its normal damage. Oh my God, that's great. I think that's amazing. It's on a 6 or more. You're going to get a bunch of attacks with these guys, though. And these guys have missile weapons. I glossed over this. They have a 12 move, 4 up save, 6 wounds. But look at that. They have this 9-inch breath. It's only 1 attack, 4 up, 3 up, -1 Ren, which is, hey, that's fine. As long as it's no Ren, as long as it's not a no Ren, that really kind of supersedes a lot of things in the game. Because there's a lot of abilities that only apply if there's no Rend. There's only very few things like the Lizardman scales that ignore anything that's not like a -2, for example. And then they do die 3 damage on that. So that's not bad. So they get a shooting attack. Then they have these skewering talons. Only 1-inch range, which I would have thought with a bigger model might have a longer range, but I can live with that. These are fast-moving butch units, butch guys, and they have 6 wounds apiece. Geez. 4 up, 3 up on the wound, not bad. And again, let's remember that we got the rerolls if you're near one of those, one of the Ghoul Kings on a Terrorgeist, or is it the Zombie Dragon? -1 Ren. These do 2 damage each. 5 attacks with a potential for 2 damage each. These guys can rip through stuff. Wow, I'm just amazed. Muster Royal Guard. In each of your hero phases, roll 6 dice. For each roll of a 5 or more, you can add 1 model to a unit of Crypt Flayers from your army within 10 inches. Wow. You can distribute the models between any units within range if you wish. This is just a way to potentially grow this unit. Let me just read this again. For each roll of 5 or more, so basically a 5 or 6. I can't imagine why they wouldn't just say 5 or 6. I don't see any way that this is going to get any modifier adding on to it. Or add 1 model to a unit of Crypt Flayers from your army within 10 inches. That's amazing. So you have 1 or even 2 of these units, and you could just start growing them. Again, it's not they just start increasing in size. There's not a spell. It's just a basic ability. I guess they start calling more of these guys in. So yeah, if you haven't built this or you're looking for a kit, start putting these guys together like this, because that's a huge upgrade from just the Vargeists. Let's take a look at the Vargeists real quickly so we can see what the Vargeists used to be. Well, they still are. They still exist. You can still build them with the ears and the hairy back, and of course the wings, but they certainly still exist. They haven't changed. But they're lesser wounds. They're less wounds. The armor's not quite as good, and they don't do nearly as much attacks. So I've got to say, this blood maddening frenzy is not going to help enough. They do some pretty good damage. They have a little better to hit and wound, but just fewer attacks. -1 Ren, 2 damage. Our guys still do a good job, but they just don't have as much. They're just a little bit lesser than than these courtiers. Which, so if again, these are fewer wounds. Obviously, when you go to a point structure for match play, they're going to be less points. Even if you're doing a wound measurement in the game, you're gonna be able to get more of these guys in there. So it stands to reason that they'll be a little bit weaker. In however you comp it, again, whether you're trying to use wounds as a guide or if you're using matched game with points, these guys are going to be a little weaker. But the level of power that we saw before with these guys on the table for 3 of them is definitely gone up for 3 of this new model, and it's with the same kit. It's the same kit. It's just a different variant that you can build. Then you have another version, and I don't think there's anything different between these two. I think this one, yeah, this one has got the spiny back, and these do as well. There's really no difference in the aesthetic of these two. It's just a different way to build it. And some people have already done this, by the way. But let's take a look at the PDF and see what the upgrade is. Okay, so these guys are a little bit more like the Vargeists in terms of their wounds and at least their save. They do have a battle cry, 10 inches, and we'll get to what that is. Their attacks are roughly around the same. It's 1 more attack, but their roll to hit is a little bit weaker at 4 up. The -1 Ren's there, but they only do 1 damage each. So their overall melee damage is a little bit weaker. So again, pretty much the equivalent of a Vargeist. But let's see. First of all, the benefit they get is they're now Flesh Eater Courts, and they've got this Crypt Flare keyword as well. But the important thing here is that they have this benefit that they benefit from the previous command ability that we had talked about. So, okay, we know they can fly, and they can fly pretty far. They have the Skewering Strike. Each time you make a hit roll of 6 or more, the attack is impaled its target, inflicting a mortal wound instead of a normal damage. So not quite as brutal, where it could do, a couple mortal wounds. But here we have an ability where you can still inflict some mortal wounds, which is pretty nice. But then we have this Fearsome Battle Cry, and that's this power here. So these guys, they have a 10-inch range, adding a little bit more versatility. Crypt Flayers can unleash a shrill scream that can kill and debilitate their victims. Each model in the unit can make a fearsome battle cry attacking your shooting phase. To do so, pick a target within 10 inches, roll a dice, adding 1 to the result. Nice. If the total is higher than your unit's bravery, oh, okay, well that's not. That's gonna be tough sometimes. It suffers a number of mortal wounds equal to the difference, but when it does its job, it's going to do a serious amount of damage because it's mortal wounds. So obviously it's gonna ignore all saves except for those that specifically apply to mortal wounds. So yeah, you're attacking your shooting phase. You pick a target within 10 inches. You roll a dice and add 1 to the roll. So some of the higher bravery armies like undead, lizardmen, demons, they're not going to get affected by this at all. But units like, for instance, low bravery like orcs, goblins, ogres tend to have a lower bravery in most cases, especially the regular units. Not I don't think it applies necessarily to the big units, but I could be wrong if I'm not remembering correctly. Either way, you're basically rolling a 2 to 7. So anything that's got like a 5 or 6 bravery, there's a chance you'll do a mortal wound, maybe 2. It's not going to come into play too often, but it's nice to have. All right, so that's, again, I do have one criticism, and that's that this aesthetic is the exact same as this aesthetic. It's the exact same combination. It's basically the Crypt Horror body with the Vargeist wings. It's really no different. So the problem is people are gonna not know which one it is. So you have to really define what it is you're playing with on the table. Okay, here is the Crypt Haunter Courtier. And this is it looks the same. It's just this is a little bit different paint job here. We'll have to see if this is a singular model. It doesn't look like it is because there's 3 guys here. But we'll have to take a look when we look at the War Scroll. But this is basically a Crypt Ghoul with the ears. I mean, Crypt Horror, excuse me, with the Vargeist, the old Vargeist head. So let's take a look at the PDF. So it is a single model. So we're talking about kind of like a leader model here. And he looks a little funky, but hey, it's still pretty cool. You identify which one is different. I personally, I wouldn't care if you had the old head. Just paint them a little differently. Maybe this guy's got this pose here. I got a couple of my modified kind of werewolfy guys that are in this pose. I typically use them as if I need to as the champion level, but this is a singular model. So this is kind of like, let me see, does he have the hero? Yes, he has the hero. These are now heroes, which I can appreciate because they're going to have some impact on other units. So he's got 6 wounds. I like that these are now ghoul heroes. They're ghoul characters. That's great. We haven't seen that before. So we're getting a few more characters, even though they're generic. He gets 3 attacks with his massive club, 2 with his talons. Not bad. 4+, 3+, no rend, unfortunately. Good damage on the bone club, though, with the 3 attacks, but no rend. And that's going to come into play with a lot of the defensive tanky type units. They heal 1 wound in each of the hero phases. That's decent. I mean, they will start off with 6 wounds and a good 4-up save. I'm pretty happy with that. For any kind of character that you want to have a 4-up save, I hate seeing the 5-ups on a character. You can reroll fail hit rolls for this model if it is within 15 inches of an aberrant ghoul king from your army. And let's remember that could be either the guy on foot or the 2 versions on either Terrorgeist or a zombie dragon. Now here, muster kings chosen. In each of your hero phases, roll 6 dice. Again, with this, for each roll of 5 or 6, add 1 model to a unit of Crypt Horrors from your army within 10 inches. You can distribute these models between any units within range if you wish. So if you get 2, you can bolster 2 of the units with 1 guy, let's say, for instance. That's crazy. That's great. I would definitely run one of these guys with a unit of Crypt Horrors. That's just absolutely by default. I think I have like 10 or 12 Crypt Horrors, and 2 or 3 of them have this kind of pose. I am definitely going to paint them up just to be a little bit different, to be the champion level of these guys. I think that's amazing. And that's each one of your hero phases. So as you lose guys, again, these models, the Crypt Horrors, they heal their wounds. They don't restore additional models like some other units, skeletons, zombies, even the Blood Knights will restore models because of their banners. This is just if you have this character in play, he can pad or even restore in some cases if you have lost ones. Just basically you're adding to the unit, and there's no range here. It's just you add it to the unit. So if they're in combat, you just bring a new guy in wherever he can fit. It's not like you have to be 9 inches away. It's just adding. It's the unit it just grows. So I think that's an incredible bonus and a nice little change, and there's some nice combinations that you can add here. I don't know if there's going to be any changes with the Crypt Ghouls. I think we'll take a look. All right. So Crypt Ghoul. So, well, we have a couple of things here. Firstly, let's take a look at the Crypt Ghouls. So Crypt Ghouls, 10 or more models, they frantically tear into their victims. We know that already. We know about the Ghast. All right, so this is where we have you gain 1 extra attack with their sharpened teeth and filthy claws if the unit has 20 or more models. So this is one of those situations where you got to have more than 20. You probably want to start off with 30 to really gain benefit, because you're going to lose guys. They don't restore any additional models to the ghouls, so you're not getting the benefit of like what you would get from skeletons or zombies. But they get 2 attacks, 4 up, 4 up, no rend, 1. This is pretty much the same, and they've got the shitty save of 6 up. But again, as they increase, they get more attacks as you increase the quantity. That's a big deal. Here, if you're within 15 inches of a Ghoul King, any type of Ghoul King, you can re-roll rolls of 1. So let's remember, all these types of different abilities are in proximity, and that's great. They're not that's so here now we're getting additional rolls, additional re-rolls, we're getting additional attacks, And we have other command abilities that will add on to these guys. I think this is, this is nice. I don't think that this is one of those abilities. I don't remember if it was here before, but it is there now, so I'm pretty happy with that. But wait, I forgot. There is a champion now, a Crypt Courtier. All right, and this is going to be a guy that you'll paint up a little bit differently. Let's see what he's got. This is totally new. So rather than a 6-up save, he's got a 5-up. He's got 4 wounds. He's a hero. He's a gassed hero. All right. He's a single model hero. Muster men-at-arms. Oh, before I even get to that, he's got a bone club, 3-up attacks, 3-up, 3-up, no rend and 1 damage. Not bad. And he's got his filthy claws, 2 attacks, 4-up, 3-up. This is a champion gassed, man. This is a hero ghoul. I love it. Okay, in each of your hero phases, roll 6 dice. For each roll of a 2 or more, add 1 model to a unit of crypt ghouls from your army within 10 inches. So this is the way that you can bypass any consideration of having to summon more ghouls. You just have this guy nearby, and you can repopulate your ghoul units in the same way that skeletons and zombies. It's not as effective or as efficient, because those you just need to have a banner. You can have multiple banners, and it just happens. And that can be the last guy that gets killed in that unit. So it's kind of hard to remove that ability. In this case, you can target specifically this hero. He's not going to be able to, he might sit behind enemy lines behind the unit of ghouls and let the ghouls do their business, and just get an additional models to grow it. But here's the thing: it's a roll of 2 or more. You roll 6 dice. Anything but a 1, and you get another ghoul. And you could grow the ghouls bigger than they started, or restore any that have been lost. It's amazing. All right, Trophy Hunter. If this model slays an enemy model in combat, add 1 to the attack characteristics of any melee weapons used by units of crypt ghouls from your army within 10 inches for the remainder of the phase. That's great. So you know what this does? This is the first time I've seen this. I don't know if you guys have seen this before. This is an ability that compels you to activate the Crypt Courtier, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, early in the combat. So it really is important strategically for you to use this guy first. It could take you away from your battle plan when it comes to whatever attacks that are going on. So you got to make sure when you put him into combat, you put him into a combat where he's not against a huge wave. He's going to get obliterated. But people are going to want to try and take this guy out early in a fight. So it could free up some of your other units from being attacked early on and being neutered, minimized, or even wiped out, reduced in their effectiveness by losing numbers, or even wiped out. Because once he gets this, even if he gets wiped out, he's imbuing a crypt ghoul unit with the ability to add 1 to their attack characteristic. And that's not bad. All right. So, 1 to their attack characteristic is another attack. And as we can see, ghouls already getting a lot of attacks. They're getting 3 attacks if they have enough quantity. I think there's another ability from the one of the versions of the Ghoul Kings where they can get another attack, or maybe this is from one of the battalions, if I remember correctly. Either way, they have a way to get lots of attacks. And now there's a way to actually get them even more with this additional hero. So not bad. He's only got 4 wounds and only a 5-up save, but still, there's going to be a lot of big. You got to imagine that him being targeted, this dude being targeted, is just taking attention away from other high value elements. And it is a force multiplier. So it is making your ghouls that much more effective, and ghouls in large numbers can still be more effective. So I'm pretty impressed. I like the added dimension. I like the additional versatility, and it's with models we already probably have. And so I don't think that's any kind of a negative. I don't have a problem at all that we're not seeing a new model for this. I think the goals still work. Let's take a look at the Vargo. Now it's called the Vargo Courtier. And let's also remember that ability that we saw from that, I think it's the zombie dragon with a rider, a Ghoul King rider. You can pull a single model of that's a Courtier onto the table. And here, I don't know if this is going to be plastic or if it's still going to be metal. But this is it's still a single model as it was before. When it first came out, it was a unit. I was very happy to see that. But when they turned it back to being a single model, I totally understood. This is like a mini monster, and it doesn't have the monster keyword, but it's like a mini monster with an eight wounds. It's only got a 5-up save, but it can fly. It moves 10 inches. These are Vargulfs are pretty damn butch. I've got 3 of them when I thought they could be in units, but I have no problem fielding them individually. Still have a lot of the abilities we saw before. They heal if they killed any unit models in combat. They die 3 wounds. Their profile hasn't changed. But let's take a look at the ability differences. To the king, in each of your hero phases, roll 6 dice on a 2 or more. Add 1 model to a unit of crypt ghouls from your army within 10 inches. However, for any roll of 5 or more, you can instead add 1 model to a unit of crypt horrors or crypt flayers. Oh my god, that's great. You can distribute these models between any units within range you wish. Holy shit, really? I think that's amazing. If you roll really high, you get more crypt horrors or crypt flayers instead. Put a couple of these guys on the table, and your crypt ghouls are just going to start swelling. Yeah, this is incentive to buy more crypt ghouls. I think I've got 40 of them. I can totally see the need to buy another 20 more, maybe. Not that I'd want to have multiple units, but I'd have one big butch unit of ghouls, and then have you want to have something you can pull from, so you can pad those units with these abilities. You're going to lose guys, certainly, but this is a way. You're not even talking about summoning. We're just talking about these abilities not unbindable. All right, let's take a look at the rest. Here's one that I was talking about before. Feed on dark magic. So remember I mentioned that these only Flesh Eater Courts wizards are the Ghoul Kings, either on foot or mounted on either a zombie dragon or a terrorgeist. So these guys, if this model is within 18 inches of any of those guys, so we're not talking about death wizards, we're not talking about necromancers or anybody else. It's just if you have to be a Flesh Eater Court keyword, and obviously those guys who are wizards, which are all the Ghoul Kings. All right, if they successfully cast a spell, you can reroll all your failed to hit rolls in the turn. All right, so again, let's try to imagine. You can roll failed hit rolls. You have a couple of these guys within range of, say, maybe they're running up with some crypt horrors and crypt ghouls, and they're adding into the power of your general, which would probably be a Ghoul King on either a zombie dragon or a terrorgeist, or maybe you have one of each even. Now it's not that hard to stay within 18 inches of one of these guys. If one of these guys casts a spell, and you now can reroll all your failed hit rolls, and you probably have one of those bonuses for rerolling or getting rerolling ones on wounding. So yeah, this is a pretty decent profile. Let's also remember he may only have 4 attacks, which is not that bad, and 1 attack with his fangs. But his 4 attacks with his claws, which is not bad. 3+3+, -1 rend, 2 wounds on those. But those go to 6 if they're next to, it says if there are at least 10 enemy models within 3 inches after they pile in. So essentially, if they pile in next to a crowd, a decent sized unit, not individual models, not monsters, yeah, those will all add up, because it's 10 enemy models. But if they pile into a rank and file unit or a unit of a large unit of cav, you're gonna get this bonus, and then they make 6 attacks instead of 4. So that adds up. That's pretty decent. I think that when you compound the ability for these guys to pad units that are existing in the battlefield within range, as well as all the reroll capabilities and other synergies, Vargulfs stock have gone up. I thought that maybe they took a step back after they were taken from being any number of models in a unit to single, which again I think was reasonable. 3 of these models in a unit with 8 wounds each is a lot. It just takes a lot to get rid of that unit. Having them being individuals means you can kill them off. You kill it off and these effects go away, and you might not have more than 1. But once you put them into a unit, they become a little bit crazier. I think it's just you just can't get rid of them. Monsters have trouble getting rid of these guys, but now as individuals, they have so much more capability in enhancing. I mean, they're all and here take a look at this. They're now considered heroes. they have a hero keyword, so they're victim. They're not victim, but they're susceptible to any models that can target heroes. They don't have the monster keyword, but now this Vargulf is considered to be a hero, and I think this is a replacement of the Vargulf as we saw it before. I don't think we see in the app just a standalone Vargulf. So the Vargulf has gone from what would be considered a mini monster to, and it never had a monster keyword, but now it's more of a hero, and I think it deserves that. It is kind of like a butch hero for the ghoul, the flesh eater courts for the ghouls, and I love that fact. So I'm very impressed. I'm very intrigued. I have most of the stuff that I need for this. I might actually be compelled to maybe get a couple of extra Vargeist Crypt Horror kits to maybe make a variant of this. I have a completely different thing I've been using for my Vargeists because I do a lot of converting. And I have a ton of these Crypt Horrors, a couple of which that I can change into being the Crypt Haunter Courtier. But the Infernal and Flayer versions, I don't have anything that I can dedicate to that. I could sub, but I wouldn't want to sub. I'd want to get a unit that I can use as either or. In some cases I'd have them as Infernals because with the additional wounds. In some cases I might have them as the Flayers. I think it's worthy and warranted to go get another unit of these guys because it's just that incredible versatility. But these characters and other elements in these units that just have that growing factor beyond the fact that if you have wizards that can summon, means that this is a unit that this is a faction that just doesn't go away. They stick around for a while, and here's what you get in the box set. All right, so we're talking 10 ghouls. Well, maybe not, maybe 20 ghouls. Yep, we're talking 20 ghouls. One of the kits with the Ghoul King on, you can make it either a Terrorgeist or a Zombie Dragon. Look, as you can see, 6 of the Crypt Ghoul kits. I mean, 6 of the Crypt Ghouls. So that's 2 box kits that you can make here. You can make any combination. You can make, obviously some of these guys be individuals. So, and with this here, with the what looks like the Flayers or the Infernals, it looks like you have 4 kits with 3 each to make in any combination you want. So let's count it: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 with the horrors, and then 3. Yeah, that's 1, 2. No, it's just 3 boxes. I'm correct when I first said it. So we're talking 3 boxes of that kit to make it any combo that you want. I'm sure there's going to be incentives to use them in certain battalions because we haven't seen the battalions yet. You get 1 Vargulf, again, now a hero. Not a bad deal when you consider the pricing of some of these. Each of these is $47 a pop. So when you consider that, we're talking about right there, we're talking about 140 plus dollars, American dollars, just for that. The Crypt Ghouls, they're roughly around 20 plus each. You're getting 2 sets of that. And then this kit here is like a $60 kit. It's like, I think it's like, maybe it's a 48 or 50 plus. I'm not sure. When you add all this up, there's some cost savings. Somebody else will wind up doing the math. I'm just saying right off the bat, I can see that there's some cost savings when you consider that this is 180 American dollars. So yeah, I'm pretty impressed with that. I've bought a lot of this stuff piecemeal, probably paid a little more than I need to. I've done a lot of bits buying because of my converting. Definitely a exciting new faction or way to build your undead army. Now, this book here, the Death Battletome, Flesh Eater Courts, we're going to see some more battalion scrolls. So let's take a look. It's not, we don't have it here. So that's going to come out eventually, but we're looking at 3 battle plans. That's pretty cool. All right, I like that. 12 Warscrolls, but that's nothing new. All right, we're not seeing anything new. We already know in the update of the app what those are, the additions and updates. But I don't see where it says anything about battalions, new battalions, unless I've read past it. So I don't see where that it says that there's new battalion formations. So I would hope that it would have some, but it doesn't say it here. I don't see anything new in the app. So maybe we're not going to see that, but maybe there'll be either a get started or maybe it's in that box set that it'll come with its own. Who knows? Let's take a look and see in the army set. This is the King Vlagorescu's Ghoulish Host. So I imagine that this guy is supposed to be a character, a specific named character. We don't have a war scroll with a specific named guy, so that's certainly not going to be the case. And no, it does not seem to say that it comes with its own battalion. All right, it would say that. We've seen that before, that it actually includes that with some of the Get Started sets. As a matter of fact, I'll go prove that by going to the section with the Death Alliance, and we can take a look at all of these. And if we look at the start collecting here, that's this one. This is the one with Arkin and his horde of 10 skeletons and 5 knights. And no, it doesn't say it here either that there's its own battalion. So perhaps we're going to get a battalion with some of these boxes. Oh, here we go. I am wrong. It contains an exclusive War Scroll battalion rule sheet. So yes, that's Arkin's Skeleton Guard. So it did indicate it here. It didn't indicate it in the previous one. Let's go take a quick look again. Maybe I missed it. Let's see. King Vorlescu, it talks about him. I guess he's in the fluff somewhere. If he is, somebody let us know. But no, I don't see anything that indicates that there's a special individual battalion War Scroll here. So I don't think we're necessarily going to get an individual battalion with any new abilities. But we did get officially, even though we saw it in the first PDF from the first release, a one for skeleton-oriented, Death Rattle, and one for Flesh Eaters. It did not get added into the app when the app was updated. When the app was introduced, it was in the first PDFs, free PDFs that were downloadable. Now they've been reintroduced. Maybe we'll see more of those, but it doesn't look like we're going to see that any new battalion War Scroll formations in the Flesh Eater Court Battletome that's coming out. So there you have it, guys. Pretty exciting stuff. Pretty interesting. Some really nice variants. I can already envision a number of ways that I would incorporate this into my existing Death Army, but I can see this just building just this on its own with a lot of character, a lot of it's just a very interesting way of playing just these types of models. And hey, again, the sculpts were pretty good, but now, there's more reason to get them, and now there's different variants on how you can build them, and I like to see this. I think we should see more of this. I think it would be cool to see more of this with existing. It couldn't be possible for every box set, but for box sets that have variants, if there's, with the variants, more ways to build the model rather than just creatively for yourself, but with individual War Scrolls that give us more options, yeah, it's going to entice you to buy more stuff, but it's going to be more interesting if that's the flavor you want to have on the battlefield with its own War Scroll for the different variants. So I'm pretty intrigued by it. I hope you are too. Feel free to leave comments with any of your feedback. And hey, have a great day, everybody.